What did you buy as an adult because you were denied it as a child? Story 1. A metal detector. I always wanted one as a kid, but my dad said I'd use it a handful of times, then it would sit and collect dust forever. I bought myself one, and it turns out that my dad was right. Story 2. When I was little, my grandma bought one of those fiber optic flower lamps. I was obsessed with it and always asked her to turn it on. She ended up putting it in an empty fish tank so I couldn't touch it. I now own 3 of them, and I turn them on whenever I want. Story 3. A Build-A-Bear. I had always wanted one growing up, but was always told no because it was too expensive. I finally decided to do it and went through the whole process of making one and filling it with love and wishes. You know, the whole magical process they do for the kiddos. I haven't slept with a stuffed animal since I was little, and yet I can hold on to my little bear throughout the night and wake up holding it. Whenever I feel sad or homesick, I just cuddle with it, and it honestly helps. It may be silly to others, but sometimes your inner child just needs something to feel safe and comforted when life gets overwhelming. And that's okay. Don't let anyone take away what brings you joy. Story 4. Hobbies for my kids, the ones they want. I wanted to play sports and play guitar, but was always told no. I wanted to learn to play literally any instrument, but was denied. I wanted to play hockey too, but wasn't allowed. It wasn't because of money. I was put unwillingly into other activities that I never asked for or wanted. So when my kid asked for cello lessons at the age of 7, they got cello lessons. When my youngest said they wanted to give up soccer for ballet, we swapped soccer for ballet. My only rule is they have to finish the season. They are not allowed to join a team or group and quit partway through without good reason. They have to finish the season before quitting. Story 5. An American Girl doll. I had a childhood friend who took a trip to NYC and surprised me with an American Girl doll. It was a just like you doll. I loved her so much. I didn't come from a great home life. Being raised by a single parent, we had financial struggles. One day my mom went behind my back and sold the doll. I was heartbroken, but my mom argued that we needed the money. I'm now 27 and just purchased my first American Girl doll. It was secondhand, bought through eBay, but I have no regrets. Story 6. Not for me, but for my wife before we married. She mentioned to me as we were talking about a certain type of Barbie doll she had always wanted when she was very young, but her family was really poor, and she never got it. During the Christmas that we were together for 2 years and would be getting engaged the next year and her age of 31 years old, I searched and searched the internet for that damn doll. After much searching, I found it and bought it. I think I paid a couple $100 for the still in the unopened box Barbie. I gave it to her that Christmas. She was over the moon. She still has it unopened and tucked away in our bedroom closet. I am kind of disappointed she never opened it and at least kind of played with it. LOL. Story 7. I wasn't denied it as a child, but we never had a recliner growing up, and I always thought of them as status symbol or sign of making it or being an adult. So when I made it, I got a recliner. Now I'm a successful, functioning, reclining adult. Story 8. An American Girl doll. I loved those books so much, and my favorite ones were about Samantha. She was always my favorite. I wanted one for Christmas so bad. I never got one. I remember that Christmas. My sister got a brand new Nintendo DS, and I got a Barbie doll. They made all sorts of excuses about how I wouldn't play with it and how expensive it was, but all I saw was how much my sister was favored, and that hurt. 20 or so years later, American Girl is doing a revival of the original style. I bought one so fast it made my credit card scream, but a few weeks later, I had the doll I'd always wanted. I don't play with her. She's more of a collector's item, but I get to hold her and brush her hair, and something about it is just so comforting. Story 9. Food. Growing up with an abusive mother who used as a weapon and control mechanism. Then got married very young, and we so dirt poor we were starving for a long time. So when I could eat when and how much I wanted to, became a mild overeater and comfort eater. Took me years to reach a happy medium. Story 10. For me it is the opposite. My parents bought me and my brother nice things, but then fought constantly about money, and oftentimes tried to make me and my brother feel ashamed for not showing enough appreciation for it. All I wanted was a functional, safe, and happy home. So, as an adult, I strive for minimalism and frugality. I take great delight in being frugal and living as basic as possible. I wear plain clothes, drive a plain car, and do not use credit for anything because keeping up with the Jones and my parents' warped priorities. Story 11. In general, we always got the cheapest knockoff versions of things. We weren't poor, parents got quality things, but the kids, if they asked for Crayola, would get some knockoff too waxy and hard dollar store crayon, or secondhand pre-broken, dirty, and used Crayolas. Now as an adult, I love providing quality and enjoying quality within our means. Story 12. Shoes I like. Anything I like, but really, Shoes. I bought hundreds of pairs of shoes, mostly boots. There came a time when I had to move and downsize, and that's when I realized I had a serious problem with impulse control surrounding shoes. I wasn't allowed to wear what I wanted. My mom wanted a girly girl, and I'm not that. I have better impulse control now, but still a wonderful collection of boots. Anyway, today my mom asked why I had Lucky Charms s'mores cereal, as I'd never eaten those cereals as a kid. Well, Mom, I wasn't allowed to eat sugary cereal as a kid, but now I'm 40 and 7, and I can eat what I want. Story 13, a house. My father refused to buy an actual house. We lived in rinky-dink tin can trailer homes my entire childhood. It wasn't until I reached adulthood that I basically forced him to sign the papers for my mother buying a not rinky-dink trailer home, 14x83 bedrooms, 2 baths, because the paper ceiling was collapsing and the mice had eaten the wiring in the 1960s model tin can we'd been in for 20 years. Decades of fear of severe storms, too. I bought a house, something my parents never wanted/managed to do. Story 14. Whatever I want, is that an answer? In all honesty, I remember being like 14 and my dad and his girlfriend making breakfast one morning. I didn't want to get out of bed because I had cramps. I did anyway. I went downstairs, and as soon as I got in the middle of the kitchen, I felt my period come. Not just a drip, a clot. I said I needed tampons. I was told I had to work with panty liners because that's all we had, and neither of them had the money to go get tampons. I had to use toilet paper all weekend until I got to school and could buy a box in the school store with my own money. I was a sophomore. I buy tampons whenever they're BOGO now. I have like 6 boxes under my sink and keep a mini purse full of them in my regular purse to have on hand and give out to any other ladies in need. Story 15. I grew up with 2 brothers and a sister. Every time we would go to McDonald's, my parents would get us 2 small fries and makes us share. And no, 2 small fries didn't go very far between 4 kids, especially when I got to age 10 or so. So now, when I go to McDonald's, which is admittedly not often now that I'm in my 40s, I get a large fries. I used to get supersized back when they had it. And woe to anybody, be they family or significant other, that dares reach for my fries. I spent my childhood fighting over fries, and that is a red line. You reach for my fries at your own risk. Story 16. Cereal. Grew up very poor. It was a luxury we just could not afford. Staying at a friend's house was sometimes a bonus because they would have Trix or Golden Grams, or if I was really lucky, Crunch Berries. Now that I have a career job and a steady source of income, I always have a box of cereal in the pantry. Story 17. A Christmas tree. When I was a kid, my family went really big on Christmas. We had a little 12-inch metal tree that sat on our coffee table. It was cute, but I always envied those tall, click-looking Christmas trees. I'm not up for the upkeep of a real tree, so I bought a really realistic-looking fake one. It's 6 feet tall, and I bought red and gold ornaments to go on it. My husband says it looks like a Hallmark tree, which is exactly what I was going for. It makes me so happy to put it up every year. My husband and I started all these cheesy little Christmas traditions too, so I'm glad our kids will have those memories one day. Story 18. I painted my walls. We always rented and were never allowed to paint it, but now that we own a house, I can paint my walls whatever I want. We also bought a house with a tree house. I need to fix it up before my little one is big enough to use it, but I'm expecting to spend lots of time in it myself. Story 19. Paracetamol. I've always had headaches, reality bad ones due to damaged nerve in the neck when I was born. My mother always refused to give me aspirin because it would go away. I used to gently bang my head against the wall to ease the pain, not a joke, or turn all lights and sound off because of the nausea. When I went to college, I bought myself a box of Nurofen. That was a life changer. Story 20. Uncoordinated furniture, non-matching dishes, thrift store clothes, varying colored shoes, garage sale items, dark-colored clothes, silver jewelry, etc. My mom was obsessed with everything being new, perfect matching, and girl colors. Oh, and all jewelry had to be gold. Now that I'm an adult, I can have whatever I want and never wear pink ever again, and it's glorious. She despises that all my furniture was bought via thrift or marketplace, that I don't have a matching dish set, bedding set, or living room set. I see zero point in spending money on brand new things, especially with kids around. I had to walk on eggshells growing up for fear I'd break something or spill something. My kids don't get yelled at for breaking a plate or spilling a GL of Kool-Aid because they're human and mistakes happen. I also don't lose my mind because I didn't spend an entire paycheck on the matching dishes. It sounds silly, but it's just nice to actually live in my house and not just be a guest in it. Story 21. I specifically searched out Nike irons that my parents couldn't afford in high school. I didn't even ask them. They were too much and I didn't need them. The hard part was finding them. Left-handed, clubs from 7 years prior. In addition, Nike had stopped making clubs a few years prior. It took about 6-8 months of consistently checking Kijiji, Marketplace, used shops, Facebook groups within a 400 kilometers radius, occasionally cross-country. Found a guy who had bought a second set when they announced they wouldn't make clubs anymore. Actually got to peel the plastic off them. Post history. Story 22. Not me, but my mom had a porcelain doll from my grandmother. It was very old and a bit fragile. One day she casually told me she had sold it. I was a bit shocked as I assumed me or my sister would inherit it. But she sold it to a very old lady, 80 years plus. The old lady had several porcelain dolls and told my mom she was very poor when she was a child. Never had a doll and always dreamed of having a porcelain doll, but never told anyone. So when her husband died, she started buying porcelain dolls. She loved every one of them and she was truly very happy. So I glad my mom sold the doll. I know the old lady loved it more than I ever would. Story 23. Shoes. Okay, like I had shoes, but only a single pair a year. So by the time clothes shopping came back around, they were duct taped and basically falling apart. The status I felt in school was seeing other kids with clean shoes and being able to match their outfits. I know this seems trivial, but it affected me. So as soon as I got money, I have a slowly bought shoes to match my vibe. I've calmed down, but my God, the first pair of sneakers I bought, I felt like I made it. Story 24. A trampoline. I desperately wanted one growing up but wasn't allowed as I was told it was too dangerous, and my mother's best friend was a nurse who constantly had kids coming into hospital with broken limbs from trampolining. Obviously, it didn't help that I injured myself on a friend's trampoline too, but it was without a net. I now have a large trampoline in my backyard with a net that I frequently use and still feel kind of bad for owning. The novelty has not worn off, even after almost a decade of owning one. Story 25. A separate bedroom for my daughter. This was actually difficult for me to grasp. When we moved into our new flat with a second bedroom and stopped co-sleeping, I had no idea how to set it up. I never had my own room as a kid and lived in a one-bedroom with my mom and brother. My brother and I slept in the living room on a mattress on the floor that we would roll up after we woke up so the living room could carry on being a living room instead of our makeshift bedroom. When I set up my daughter's bed in her own bedroom, I almost cried because I realized that I'd never had my own room, so no clue how she was supposed to live in it. Luckily, my wife grew up in a house with multiple bedrooms and knew what she was doing. Oh, also a fridge full of fizzy drinks and a cabinet full of crisps. Also something I never had as a kid, but when I went to my rich friends' houses, they always had those on request. Story 26. A huge Lego set. My family could never afford the $200, $300 kits, so for Christmas last year, my husband got me the huge Rivendell Lotter Lego set. In return, I got him a sports car Lego set. And for Christmas, two 30-year-olds sat around the table drinking champagne and eating a delicious cheese board while building Legos. No regrets, and definitely planning to recreate this Christmas. Story 27. In all honesty, baking supplies. When I, 33M, was about 7 or 8 years old, I really wanted an easy bake oven. You know the toy where you just put some powder into it and effectively microwave light bulb bakes. It's unholy concoction so you can eat it. I thought it was fantastic, and then I could have it and make my own food. Yet my parents and brothers ridiculed me and said it was a toy for girls. Then when I was 13 or 14, expressed that I wanted to be a chef when I grew up, which my mother was not supportive of, saying it was women's work, while my dad tried his best to be on board. My dad would try to support me, but it would always come across as condescending or belittling in my super sensitive teenage years. So I gave up that dream and studied physics in school and became an IT consultant. It dawned on me when I met my wife that I could learn how to cook and bake better. She's terrible in the kitchen, so I took on that role. Now, 6 years after taking on that chore of baking and cooking, I've rekindled my love of the craft. I have since purchased multiple cookbooks spanning various cuisines, but I truly enjoy the odd recipes that taste fantastic. Carrot pie, tomato soup chocolate cake, mock apple pie, and whole plethora of just strange recipes. If you're curious, I highly recommend the cookbook Baking Yesteryear by B. Dylan Hollis, or the Great Depression cookbook written and embelled by the YouTube channel Clara's Kitchen. Story 28. Basically, anything and everything I want, I take care of my bills and animals. But if I want something enough, I get it. I'm 28, can't have kids, don't ever want them, and I'm just enjoying my own life. I take road trips, go on long vacations, visit internet friends I've known for years. I just do whatever I want. Story 29. Lego, the Power Rangers toys and costumes Mom told me I couldn't have because I'm a girl. Women's clothes that I don't get laughed at for wearing. I'm a girl, but now she's not in my life. I don't feel bad for following fashion or trying to look nice. Hair straighteners, oils, curly creams, etc. so my hair looks decent now. Makeup, I get to play with makeup. Mom wouldn't let me near the stuff. She wore it. I wasn't explicitly banned, but if I wanted to go near it, she would be so horrible I didn't even try. Food. There's always snacks, food I can make on a whim if I'm hungry, healthy and unhealthy. Mom screamed at me if I asked for more food because I was hungry all the time. We had money for more food, Mom just didn't want to spend it. I got 800 cal a day as a 5'11", an incredibly active kid. I walked to school and back, 4 miles. Did PE, did 4 TLs of martial arts a week, and they were intense cools. She got to eat off an adult-sized plate, I didn't. I had this kid-sized one, and it was never fully when she made food either. I remember one time getting into her bananas and eating the lot. I was just so damn hungry I couldn't help myself. I got screamed at and hit for it. There wasn't anything else. Mom only bought as much as we needed. There was no rice. I only saw rice and ready meals growing up. No extra bread, no extra snacks for me. I got 1 6-bag of crisps a week and that was it. So I got 1 a day for 6 days. It was ridiculous, so I couldn't just make some food even though I could cook. Right now, though, I have tons of food I can just go eat. I can also ride my bike whenever I want. Mom popped the tires on my childhood bike because I needed to use it to get to school when I had a broken foot, toes. I was 17/18, and she didn't like me using my bike anymore, so she ruined it. I had to walk to school and back. Took me an hour to get there and hurt so badly. Mom refused to drive me even though she ped me on the way to work. Oh, so add on being allowed to rest broken bones as well. Story 30, food. The first few times I was able to walk into a grocery store or restaurant and pick whatever I wanted, within reason, I just broke down and sobbed. No more worrying about if I'd have fresh, non-spoiled, non-bug-infested food. No more counting pennies just so I could have a larger serving. If I was out and about and got hungry, I could just go get food. I didn't have to fill up on water anymore. I've been learning how to cook all sorts of things since then and try to always have food available for visitors. No one will be hungry in my home. Story 31. My parents never owned a house or a car. We lived in a 2BR duplex apartment and had to either walk, take the bus, or depend on other people for transportation. I have a nice house in the suburbs that we've been in for over 20 years and have substantial equity in. And we own 2 cars that are both paid off. Story 32. My own tools. All I wanted to do was help my dad with stuff around the house, but he'd always tell me I wasn't allowed to because it's man's work, or wouldn't even teach me the most basic stuff, like how to mow the lawn or check the oil in a car when I was a teenager, because I wasn't born with a dick. Now I'm a sheet metal worker. I have more tools, and they're better quality than my dad's ever were, and my grandpa left all his hand tools to me, his youngest granddaughter, instead of his 3 sons. Story 33. I have the opposite story. I've learned that I don't need to buy. It's okay to walk away without buying. We were poor growing up, but my parents indulged us. Like we always got to have a treat at the grocery store. It was like a ritual. We'd go to some plaza and buy a particular treat from multiple stores. When we went out to eat, my mom was stressed about being judged for not spending enough. It kind of became ingrained in me to buy. Now I realize I don't need to buy that pastry, just because we always did before. If I don't particularly want to eat it at the moment, I can skip it this time. It's interesting now, even though my mom is starting to get senile and we've moved to a different state for decades. If we go visit our old stomping grounds, she still wants to go buy those particular treats from those particular stores. Story 34, socks without holes, lots and lots and lots of nice socks. Coats that fit and actually keep me warm, not from a Goodwill store. Shoes that fit and not make your feet numb because they were so small. Toes deformed from that. Blankets and bedding that keeps you warm. More than one tiny pillow in my bed now. Brand name sodas that I can have whenever I want. Not the nasty generic brands we only got on brutal camping vacations. No more badly homemade clothes. OMG. The teasing was brutal. Brand name good quality clothing that fits. Something to put on the walls. Weren't allowed that. I get something from the fridge anytime I want now. Don't have to sneak to a yard hose for a drink of water. Food. I had rickets and all 4 quadrants of my rib cage is still deformed to this day. We had no toys and I had no dolls except a huge one. No clothes and 1 arm missing. Frightful thing. It scared me somehow it was gone. Visual repairs and visual training AMD, now surgeries from my head going through drywall. Oh, that was for going to Girl Scouts BC, they were making cookies. Wrong answer, little 8 years old girl. Not working as much now. I began working for income at age 5 in the fields. Up at 3 a.m. back in the afternoon, very hard labor. I bought myself time to not have to work all the time. Real brand chips of flavors. I like real brand name junk food that I like. A haircut that I choose, so I do to look like a boy. I'm a 5'11" lady born this way. I taught after and paid for my own education. Adult braces. Eventually a car. Wards of the state have no cosigner by law, so pay it all or no car. I bought my birth certificate when I was 25 years old. Really good ice cream of my choosing. Brand name candy, sweets, chocolate, junk foods, brand cereals of all kinds. Paid for investigator to find my brother. We all got split up. We went to orphanage. Like that. Story 35. McDonald's cheeseburger Happy Meal. Growing up, my mother would always ask for a bite or a sip, and then take a huge portion from our meal. If we were told that we had to share it, we probably wouldn't have minded, but it was the lying about it and taking advantage of us that really drove the knife in. I remember the first time I bought food at McDonald's and realized that I got to eat the whole thing was a moment. Story 36. Oh, so many things. I grew up poor, or at least I thought so because I never got anything because it was too expensive, but looking back at the computers and mountain bikes my brother got, I think I was just being abused. At some point, I stopped asking for anything because I was too worried about money, and then I stopped even wanting anything since I thought I couldn't possibly deserve anything. So after that unsolicited trauma dump, I'll list some things LOL. I bought one of those rugs that have a cityscape on them, the ones you use with little cars. I had it for years in use in our kitchen, but then my dog pooped on it and I just couldn't get it clean and had to throw it out. I've started buying Legos. I always wanted them as a child and begged my brother to let me play with his insane collection, but he rarely allowed me to. I love the botanical series, and it has healed something in me to put them together and just play for no reason. So many art supplies, craft supplies, books, clothes that I actually like, good winter clothes that actually keep me warm, fidget toys, slime, Play-Doh, Orbeez, and all the sensory toys I wanted as a child. Being an adult is awesome. Story 37. This will probably get buried in the other 4,000 plus comments, but I want to tell this story anyway, because fuck I wanna. And I don't care if it ever gets read. Decades ago, I would rent games with my family on Fridays. My favorite game was this little car game, open world RPG racing. I would rent it pretty often, but I never internalized what it was called because all my gaming back then was based off what had the coolest cover. It was just the little car game to me. One week, it was gone from the rental store. Little did I know, I was about to never see that game again for the next 18 years. Turns out some other kid was irresponsible and destroyed the rental copy, and the store forced them to pay for it. Move forward into college, I have money, and I just randomly put my nostalgia to work 100% on finding the little car game. I stalked all over Google looking into it for a few days because I barely remembered what it looked like. Turns out, the game is part of a series in Japan called Choro Q, but when the series came to America, they localized it as a whole bunch of different names. It's called Choro Q HG4 or Road Trip Anywhere, and I now have my own copy that will never leave me ever again. Story 38. Not for myself, but for my child. I paid for my child to go to private school. I made sure he is never the child without, that he never know a day of hardship as a child or severe poverty, that he has the opportunity to try any sport he wants, that he grew up in an environment from a child should never be exposed to, and all the love a child should have without worrying about adult. I hope I'm giving him a childhood that he does not have to recover from. I grew up so poor in such a deprived area, surrounded by junkies, alcoholism, domestic violence, and even murder. I swore I would never put any child through that and do better. So I guess I bought my escape to a better life and to provide a better life for my child. Don't know if this answer counts. Story 39. Cool snacks. My mom, who did the grocery shopping, had some weird vendetta against fun snacks. Doritos, Cheetos, Cosmic Brownies, Oreos, Lunchables, etc. I was always so jealous of my best friend because her house was kind of like the party house when it came to snacks. They were always stacked. Now as a 27-year-old adult, I buy all of the fun, cool snacks when I go to the store. Story 40. Food. Nothing makes me happier than grocery shopping and getting fresh veggies from a local farmer's stand. As a youngin', I joined my high school's vocational culinary program so I would have access to food. This led me to a short career as a chef. Short because I loved cooking at the nursing home, so I became an aide, then a nurse, which also paid more than minimum wage. My entire young adult life trajectory was driven by my need to make up for the food I wasn't getting at home. Story 41. A high school grade or better, microscope. Wanted one for most of my early teen life. Sadly, I was from the generation that didn't take a girl wanting a microscope as a serious request, as well as it being too expensive for the kind I wanted. As soon as I could afford one in my early 20s, I bought the best I could afford, which was from a supplier to high schools. I kept it all the way through the raising of 4 kids, and I had so much fun teaching them about the micro world. A story 42. I never got to go to the movies, too expensive, but eventually saw Lilo and Stitch on VHS and loved it. Was so obsessed I begged my mom for months to let me go to the store so I could get a Stitch toy. By the time we got there, there was zero Lilo and Stitch merch. I was heartbroken. Many years later, I casually brought it up to my husband in convo, and the next day I was greeted with a Stitch stuffed animal put in my arms. I cried a lot. I don't need a stuffed animal in my 30s, but the sentimental value of my husband loving me and caring so much to stitch up a childhood wound of mine means everything. The other time I wanted the complete DVD series of Beast Wars. At 15, my dad said he would get it for my birthday. I waited and waited and waited. Eventually asking every month annoyed him and eventually got angry and told to stop asking. I still never received any present at 15, and after waiting a year, my 16th birthday wish was, you guess it, the DVDs. Long story short, I never got the DVDs or 2 years of birthday gifts. This wasn't a financial issue either. This was just a lazy dad issue. Told my husband the story of how that happened, and following that, my birthday gift was something I can't remember. But then he went, oh, this showed up for you all nonchalantly, and gave me another gift. Whole complete special edition DVD box set. He looked at me and said, looks a little late, but you deserved it all along. Cried like a baby and watched my favorite kids show all day. There were even episodes I never saw to boot. Story 43. A backpack. Just a regular backpack with 2 straps that go over both shoulders. When I was in elementary and before the start of school one year, my parents went shopping without us kids for school supplies. When they got back home, it turned out that my older brother got the regular backpack, but somehow I got a gym bag looking thing that had only one sling, and that went over one shoulder. This thing looked somewhat effeminate and definitely different from what every other kid had. This was also back in the 90s before gym bags and similar bags were a thing. I had no choice but to put my school supplies in this bag and go to school with it. The kids were relentless and cruel. I was mocked and called gay every single day. I couldn't concentrate on my studies in school. Even the teachers laughed and made some mild comments like, is that really your school bag? I hated school, I hated my life, and I just hated everything else. My older brother piled on with the teasing, and so I had no peace even on the way home from school. At home, I begged my parents to get me a regular backpack, but they refused. After buying all the school supplies, they were short on money, and they also thought that this would build character. I was so angry, and looking back now, I can see how needlessly cruel and senseless it all was. I'm definitely still bitter over that damn shoulder bag and all the mocking that I had to endure. If it was a few comments, it wouldn't have been so bad, but it was every single day for multiple months, it seemed. Now that I'm much older, I don't much care what I wear, and what items I own, and what people think of me. I'll buy whatever I want and use it if I like the style and color. But when you're less than 10 years old and without a fully formed personality, any mocking or teasing cuts deep and traumatizes you. As an adult, I now have so many backpacks of all sorts of colors and styles, maybe about a dozen or so bags of various styles and colors. None of them are high-end branded bags, just regular and dependable bags. One example is a Sierra brand bag from Costco that is over 10 years old. I also have shoulder bags that are similar to messenger bags, but no effeminate bags. I'm also more aware now of young kids' feelings, and I make sure my young niece and nephew have everything they could possibly want. They're not spoiled. They're actually great kids, and they're my favorite humans. But I try to make sure they don't have any items that they could be teased for or mocked for in school. Story 44, orthodontic treatment. I was actually measured for it and everything as a kid, but my parents had recently separated and couldn't agree on how to divide the costs, so it got canceled. Now I have to have jaw surgery too because my bad teeth caused jaw degeneration. Fun reminder that when divorce is a battle, the kids are the ones who lose every time. Story 45. It wasn't denial, we couldn't afford it. Every console I owned was bought years after release from the Cliffides or a pawn shop, or it fell off the back of a truck. I took off work to buy a PS5 the first week simply because I could. I didn't even really want it that bad. I just wanted the ability to say I got it the first week because it's something I could never do before. Story 46. I had an OG blue Nintendo DS. It was my favorite thing. I had Animal Crossing Wild World. My dad, in rage and naked, came flying out his room when I was maybe 12 and took it from me and slammed it on the ground, then threw it at me. This was a turning point in the abuse I faced growing up because it showed me that nothing was mine. I never forgot that feeling. I bought one earlier this year with Animal Crossing, and it stays on my bedside table as a reminder that nothing like that will ever happen to me again. Story 47. Whatever the hell I care to eat, whenever the hell I care to eat it. When I was on visitation with my parent as a child, I had to ask permission for literally anything other than water, and permission was usually denied. If I ate so much as a slice of cheese when it wasn't mealtime, I would be punished. I never binged or even really overdid it. They just hated my good parent, and it was clear I was almost a carbon copy. I somehow managed to avoid disordered eating, but once I went NC, the first time, I vowed that no one would ever tell me what I could or could not eat again. Short of allergies/intolerances, no one ever will. Story 48. I always wanted one of those rugs that had streets and parking lots. City streets rug or whatever you call it. My parents were well off, but they never bought me that rug, saying the rug in my room is much more expensive and of higher quality. They were right. It cost something like 800 D-Mark. It was bought from Germany, but at the same time they weren't. When I become a father, I will buy one for my kids. Right now I could easily buy one, but I have no use for such a thing as an adult. Another thing my parents refused to buy was chocolate cake. They always bought fancier cakes with fruits and stuff. I only got chocolate cake for my birthday. Now as an adult, I often buy regular chocolate cake. Mwahaha. Story 49. Lots of Pokemon plushies. My mom was always the sort to ignore what I wanted in favor of what she believed I should want. I love her dearly, but to this day she refuses to listen when I give her gift ideas. Everything I want is too expensive, but then she'll turn around and gift me a pair of the most hideous pants ever to have been manufactured that also happened to cost at least triple what the thing I wanted did. Now that I'm an adult with a life, income, and space of my own, I've been collecting some of the things young me always dreamed of having. The Pokemon plush collection is the core of that. I love them all dearly and make it a point to surround myself in them when I'm relaxing. Story 50. Those platform sandals when they were popular in the 90s. I wanted them so much but couldn't get them, and when I was 10, a friend got them, and I begged her to let me have them when she was done wearing them. Some months later, she gave them to me, and out of excitement, I wore them out, and some other kids saw me and burst into laughter because they knew the shoes were from the other girl. I never wore them again, and last month, I just got them after saying I was going to buy them for years. Story 51. Those little quarter machines at restaurants. Fake tattoos, random bouncy balls, little trinkets. I keep a little pouch of quarters in my purse, so when I see them, I can do it. I know it's little garbage items, but I love turning that freaking wheel to get a random prize. When my husband and I were dating a single mother, I especially made sure I had quarters for her kids. Worth it. Story 52. Real diamond earrings. Growing up, I was only ever allowed to wear gold, silver studs. No hoops, nothing flashy or dangling stuff, just studs. So when I left for college, my first credit card purchase was for some crappy 1/4C studs from a mall jewelry store. I wore those suckers with pride all the way to my first break and hid them in my box until I got back to school. Now, before anyone gets all crazy screaming overprotective parents, etc., it was my father's rule because when you're a POC in the rural Deep South, growing up not drawing attention to yourself is usually an important part of life. While it really wasn't a real big issue for my generation, his and his parents learned that if you blend into the background and avoid drawing attention, you can get by relatively unscathed. It was a way to go through life for them, and I understood that he only meant what was best for me. Story 53. I repurchased a lot of my old toys that were left in storage unpaid for months and months until they were sold out from under us, repeatedly. I also go to the doctor when I feel bad, buy lots of healthy food, buy all of the black clothing my closet can fit, and we have one of the nicest beds an average family can buy, and I even let myself have little trinkets or supplies for my hobbies. Story 54. I kept all the gaming systems possible. When someone gifted me a gaming system as a child, my mom promptly hawked it at the nearest pawn shop. So this is how I'm a gamer at almost 45. I don't care what people think. It's healing my inner child. Another one is purebred dogs. My family bred police dogs and made a lot of money from this business. They wouldn't give me one for myself no matter how much I begged. So now I only have purebred dogs. Clothes. I had to wear the same 3 outfits because that's all I had. I could go months without doing laundry and still have something to wear. Shoes. As a kid, I only owned 1 pair of shoes. If my shoes get even a little worn, I immediately buy new ones. Story 55. My mom never let me come along/give input when she bought clothes for me, and she had horrible taste. I also wasn't allowed to own more than 5 shirts and 5 pairs of pants at a time, and I went to a public school with no uniform or anything. My mom had this Mive walk-in closet with hundreds of tops and pants/shorts/skirts and like 40 pairs of shoes, and I was so jealous. I got into thrifting clothes as soon as I could work drive. I wouldn't even say I'm super in fashion or own a ton of clothes now, but it's so nice to put on an outfit and feel like it's you, your style, and feel good in it, and have different outfits for different occasions and more variety than only having 5 shirts to choose from. Story 56. I think my first paycheck post moving out, I went to Walmart and bought those great value fudge striped shortbread cookies. My mom never would buy them, didn't have the money. I couldn't believe that when I saw Ray were literally $1 for a tray. This was an unspecified length of time ago, of course, but goddamn, how broke were we, Mom? Anyway, I bought those almost every grocery day until I got sick of them. I haven't had one in an unspecified length of time, so I'd murder a pack right now, like a stray dog and a roadkill-flavored tennis shoe. Another thing I did that with was martini sparkling cider. I didn't realize you can buy that year-round. It was, of course, genuinely expensive, but the champagne of poor, recently independent kids. Story 57, a game console. My parents' reasoning was that they didn't want me to get distracted by one and not finish my school inments. Several generations of consoles ped, and I was always disappointed that I wasn't allowed to have one. So as an adult, I bought my own. I bought several since. But the first one that I got for myself is the most important one. And I can honestly say that I was able to balance gaming and schoolwork just fine, and I've absolutely gotten my money's worth from it. Story 58. High-quality, more expensive versions of stuff. Growing up, it was always the cheap version of something, or most likely, used stuff, hand-me-downs and whatnot. And then there would be so much blame, because I was the one who breaks it. Now, years down the road, I barely buy anything because all the things I have last. Spending more and doing the research saved me so much money long-term. Story 59, one high-end gaming PC that I saved almost 1 year to have, and a lot of games on Steam. My mom hated gaming with a peon, and will go on screaming sessions whenever my brother or I mention it. She once screamed at me, full volume, in the car for an hour straight because I let it slip that I told the CL gaming is my hobby. Story 60. Many things, most of them simple, such as colored lip balm. I bought 4 the first time because I was excited to try all the colors. Nail polish. I got it twice when I was very young and never saw it again after that, under the pretext that I was young or that it was useless. Meals outside the home. Unfortunately, I have an eating disorder and I cannot even eat all foods, but I tried many foods that were prohibited from them. Ice cream in the winter and many office supplies, which they think are a waste of money. Books you can read online. Until now, I have not found a convincing reason to deny them.